Hi, welcome to UMBC. I'm going to give a short presentation with some advice on how to succeed as a graduate student in the computer science and electrical engineering department here at UMBC. My name is Tim Finin. I'm a professor in computer science in our department. So what we'll cover today are the following topics. The first is a little discussion of what it's like to be a graduate student, what the life cycles are for a master's student and a PhD student. Then talk about how to find an advisor and a mentor. Uh, I'll cover briefly some of the resources that are available to you as a graduate student and wind up with a presentation of what it's like to do a graduate degree. So the life cycle for a graduate student is a little different for a master's student and a PhD student. For a master's student, it's really focused more on taking courses. So when you're trying to decide what courses to take, please talk to your advisor. They're there for a purpose. And talk to other students, more senior students especially, as well. Graduate students who are supported typically take 2 or 3 classes a semester. And it's possible to transfer in graduate credits from another program, but they have to be approved. Now, something that's important for computing students these days, and electrical engineering students as well, is to do internships in the summer. It's also possible to do internships during the year as well, but typically you want to do them in the summer. And the time to apply for that traditionally has been maybe starting in November, and it may go through May that opportunities arise. So again, talk to your advisor and talk to other students about how to find those opportunities and what's a good way to, present yourself to possible companies. So our master's students are required to do either a master's thesis or a master's project. A thesis is 6 credits, equivalent to 2 courses, and a project is usually just 3 credits. So a thesis is done over 2 semesters and a project usually over 1 semester. So there are some considerations. I think ideally it's good to do a master's thesis, but you have to have a good project and something you're enthused about doing. And if you do a master's thesis or even a project, you should think about trying to publish your results as a paper, either in a workshop or a conference, or perhaps a journal, along with whoever was working with you, an advisor and a mentor. When you're allowed to finish your master's program, you might decide to apply to a PhD program, either here at UMBC or beyond, or you'll want to interview with the organizations to look for a job. Now, it's a little different for a PhD student. The most important thing for a student doing a PhD is research culminating in a dissertation. But you have to take courses as well. Now, maybe if you were previously a master's student, you will have satisfied all the requirements for courses. But if not, again, you want to talk to your advisor about what courses to take. And it's an important step is to find a mentor in addition to your advisor. So you should be reading a lot of papers, start thinking of problems, try to understand what research topics are thought to be important in your area of interest. You might want to do special topics classes of 699 or for a research experience. And our PhD program requires you to complete portfolios every year along your program to track how you're doing. So again, the most important thing for doing a PhD is your dissertation research. So you want to take classes that will support that early. If you have to take still some basic classes, you can put those off to later and focus on courses in the area that you want to do research. So the main thing you'll do kind of midway through your PhD program is to develop a dissertation topic, do some preliminary research on it, and recruit a dissertation committee. Along the way, you may want to do, hopefully, one or more research-oriented internships with a company or a government organization, perhaps. Then you'll need to write and present and defend your dissertation proposal to your committee. This is something we consider the key part of your preliminary examination to become a PhD candidate. So once you're a PhD candidate, you've got a dissertation topic, it's been approved by your committee, then the hard work starts of actually doing the research. So you'll work with your mentor to understand what to do and write papers along the way, present papers at conferences, and ultimately defend your dissertation and then interview for different organizations and get a job. So research advisors and mentors are important. Your advisor initially is a temporary advisor, and he or she is there to advise you on what courses to take, how to deal with various requirements, and so forth. Your temporary advisor is under no obligation to become a research advisor and may not even be in an area you're interested in doing research. So you should consider looking for a mentor independently of your temporary advisor. And this is true whether you're a master's student or a PhD student. Now, you want to try to find a research mentor or permanent advisor early second. And you should have one by the end of your first year as a graduate student. Now, if your interests change, it's possible to change your research advisor. There's a form to fill out if you do want to change your research advisor. And in fact, you should fill that out even if you're changing from your initial temporary advisor to a permanent research advisor. So how do you find a research advisor or mentor? Well, the first thing you do is figure out what area you're interested in. And when you go and talk to a potential research advisor, don't say, well, I'm interested in everything, but especially your area. You want to focus in on something you're truly interested in. And if it will be helpful to start right from the start, taking classes in that area of interest. So again, there are some required breadth courses like algorithms and required in a computer science program. You can put these off till later to make room for courses in your area of interest. Well, if you're interested, for example, in AI, you might immediately start by taking our Principles of AI class, or maybe start with a machine learning class, or maybe start with a natural language understanding class, or the robotics class, depending on what your interest is. So you can talk to other students. They'll be give you good information on the different faculty members, what they're really interested in, what kind of research they do, and what their labs are like. We have periodic, regular talks, usually at least once a week, or once every 2 weeks, that focus on research. We also have, these are open to the public, and you should consider attending them, even if they're not exactly in your area of interest. We also have public defenses of master's theses and PhD dissertations, and it's a good idea to attend those as well if they're in an area that's of interest to you. Both those things will help broaden your understanding of what research is going on in an area. And even if you get lost halfway through, the first half of what you heard will help inform you about that area. So you'll also want to do a lot of reading about the topics you're interested in. And eventually, at the end, say, of your first year, you've got a couple of candidates that you might like to work with, and you can go and talk to them, and you'll already know a lot and impress them with your interest and your diligence. So when you want to go talk to potential advisors, you can contact them. Well, our advice used to be set up an appointment to go meet with them, but this year that may be done online. But try to say you'd like to talk to them and send them some email and see if you can arrange a time to have an online meeting. When you go and do talk to them, you should have some questions in mind to start the conversation and break the ice. So, for example, you might say, well, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z, that work that you've done. Can you tell me more about that? Or do you have some ongoing projects that I might be able to learn about more and contribute to? Or you could ask if you could sit in on their lab meetings. Many of our faculty are in labs, and they may have a periodic meeting every week or every other week or once a month. So faculty are busy, so you might have to be a little persistent about trying to get together with them to talk about a potential research project. But don't be too persistent, don't be annoying. Just keep in touch with them and recognize that the faculty sometimes are overwhelmed with various projects and teaching obligations they have to do. Now, just because you have a research advisor, that's shouldn't be the only faculty person that you interact with. Hillary Clinton used as a title of a book, this is many years ago, "It Takes a Village to Raise a Child," which was an African proverb. And I like that idea. Uh, I think it applies to research advising for graduate students as well. Uh, so I think it takes a department to train a graduate student. You'll take classes from many faculty members. You may have research overlaps with many faculty members. You'll have a committee for your master's thesis or your master's project or your dissertation that involves multiple faculty members. And ideally, there'll be a set of 2, 3, 4, 5 faculty members who all contribute to your intellectual growth and knowledge about the field. So keep that in mind. It's not just your research advisor or your mentor that you want to have a relationship with. So I wanted to just point out some resources here at UMBC for graduate students. You probably are familiar with most of these, perhaps. But the first thing is to go to the grad school site. They have a lot of information about the programs, about the requirements, and funding opportunities, and so forth. Then there's a Graduate Student Association, which has graduate students from all departments. They also have a lot of resources that are focused on a student perspective. So explore that website and understand what they have to offer. And then our department webpage is something you should visit periodically, a couple times a week, I think. We have news items, we have announcements of talks. Some of these things you'll get by email, but some of them you may not. So visit our webpage, and the webpage also has a lot of information for students in the drop-down menus. Also, you may, if you're on social media sites like Facebook and Twitter, you may want to become friends with or follow the CSEE Facebook site or the Twitter Facebook account. And we also have sites for other areas like that you may be interested in, like cybersecurity. And different labs may have Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts. Again, it's another way to keep on top of news about our department or UMBC or a particular research lab. So let me wind up by showing a great presentation by a computer science professor, Matt Knight at the University of Utah. This is the way he explained what it's like to do a PhD degree. And I think it applies to a master's degree as well. So it starts with, imagine a circle that contains all of human knowledge. When you finish elementary school, you know a little bit of that knowledge, but there's a lot that you don't know. So as you continue on in high school, you learn more. If you go to college and a bachelor's degree, you learn more. And some of it isn't general. It may be focused on one area, like computer science or electrical engineering. And a master's degree extends mostly that specialized knowledge. You're not learning general knowledge so much anymore, but specialized knowledge. And a PhD, uh, when you work towards a PhD, you really focus on that specialty and you get up to the edge of what's known as you read papers, attend talks, and so forth. And when you get to that boundary, you really focus on trying to advance the boundary, to add to human knowledge. And you push at the boundary. And if you're a PhD student, it may be several years of pushing at the boundary. And finally, it gives way. You know, you've shown something that's new, you've discovered something that's new, you found a way to combine things in a way that leads to something new. And that's your contribution to knowledge. And when you do that, that's one of the criterion for getting a PhD. You have to add some human knowledge. And, you know, from the big scale of things, well, from your scale, it looks really different. It looks big, what you did. But if you step back and look at the big picture, it's not so big. So it helps you keep that in perspective. It's important. You made a good contribution, but from the big picture of humanity, it's very focused in a small area. The takeaway that Matt Might gave for this way of thinking about things is you need to keep on pushing. Find an area you're interested in, learn everything there is to know about that area, get up to the boundary of what's known, find something that you think you could use to extend what's known about this problem or this topic, and push at it and push at it and push at it until you get some success. So that's the presentation. If you go to the graduate school, you'll find lots more information about helpful information about how to succeed in graduate school. And I look forward to meeting many of you online, I guess, and eventually in purpose once this pandemic is behind us. Thank you.